I'm John Sadler from Sadler Sports Insurance, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you today about the AYF and AYC Insurance and Risk Management Program. Like Joe Galad always says, AYF and AYC are all about protecting the kids against injuries and the administrators and volunteers against lawsuits. He's appointed me as the defensive coordinator, and it's my job to make this happen. I think we have the resources. We just need to inform you about them and get you to implement the game plan at home. Of course, the biggest issue for the second year in a row is brain injury in the form of concussions and the accumulation of subconcussive impacts. We're going to spend some time talking about this threat, but first I want to review the resources that are available to you on our website at www.sadlersports.com/AYF. Here's our AYF webpage, where you can find a complete description of all 5 policies that we offer, along with the rates and the coverage details. Over 90% of our clients click on this link to apply for coverage online, where the entire process can be completed in as little as 10 minutes, including printing off your proof of coverage documents and certificates for field owners. Also, notice the links for risk management and blog. Here's our risk management page. On the left-hand side, the content is unrestricted access available to the general public. Just enter your name and email address and you can access all of this content. On the other hand, on the right-hand side is the password protected section, which is available exclusively to current Sadler clients. You'll need to enter the password, and the password is RISK, and then you can review the following content. Here's a listing of our risk management content that is most applicable to youth tackle football and cheer. First of all, the use of 15-passenger vans to transport participants should never occur because it's a legal landmine and their use is not covered by our insurance. We have an excellent article on why you absolutely must use waiver release agreements and why they're definitely worth the paper they're written on, despite what you might have heard from your local attorney. Even if they don't hold up to have the lawsuit immediately dismissed, they do help our insurance carrier to reduce the amount they pay out on a settlement. The article entitled "Collect Certificates of Insurance from Your Vendors" will explain why it is necessary for your legal protection to collect certificates of insurance from all your independent contractor service providers, showing that they carry a general liability policy in the amount of at least $1 million and naming your organization as an additional insured. Examples of these service providers include outside janitorial, field maintenance, umpire and referee crews, and concession workers. If their negligent actions result in your being dragged into a lawsuit, you want their insurance to pay for the defense cost and the settlement, not yours. You should make sure that they have the necessary insurance before you hire them. The article entitled "Before You Sign the Facility Lease Agreement" is a must-read, as it will educate you on the little-known dangers of blindly signing lease agreements with municipalities and private landowners, and will provide useful negotiating tips. These lease agreements often have ridiculously unfair provisions where you may be required to assume the liability for injuries where the landowner is 100% negligent and you're 0% negligent. If you can identify these provisions and address them, you can often amend the contract to address your concerns. As regards lightning safety, the 30-30 rule is probably one of the most abused rules in all of youth sports and can be very unpopular to enforce. However, this article does a good job of explaining the dangers that exist if you don't follow the standards and making the correct call to postpone or cancel. We have the best sex abuse molestation risk management material in the industry. We have an article that explains the pros and cons of the different types of background checks. As a general rule, the quality of the check and the services offered by the vendor rise with the cost of the background check. We have 2 excellent training videos. The first is for your administrators on the proper way to implement an abuse molestation risk management program without getting your pantsuit off. A lot of administrators make the mistake of just shooting from the hip and running background checks and making decisions without having their documentation in place. This can result in all types of liability, including lawsuits for invasion of privacy, slander, libel, and the violation of rights under the Fair Credit Reporting Act and similar state laws. In addition, we have an excellent awareness training video for your staff that will create a hostile environment towards these child sexual predators and will educate your staff on some of the sick psychological techniques that the predators are using on our youth. We have a Word doc template for a written abuse molestation program that you can easily adopt as your own that will provide all the necessary details to help to protect you. In addition, we have excellent concussion risk management resources, including a state-by-state listing of the applicable concussion laws and links to the CDC Heads Up online training course and parent-athlete handouts. We have a new brain injury risk management program that we're introducing this year, and we'll cover it a little later in this presentation. And finally, the most important of all our documents is the new AYF-AYC risk management program Word doc template that we introduced at the Leadership Conference in 2013. It's a comprehensive risk management program that covers general safety at the ballpark as well as a full sex abuse, molestation, and brain injury risk management program. All the work has already been done for you, and you only need to invest an additional 30 minutes or so to make a few decisions to customize this for your organization. It's amazing how this risk management awareness program really works to reduce injuries and your liability. I wish that every organization would adopt and implement this program. In addition, I produced a video that explains this new risk management program that you can find under the videos section. Here's a screenshot of our blog. Notice that you can search by categories such as concussions or football, or you can go to the search box and you can type in a specific term such as the Guardian Cap. Here are samples of some of the better blogs that we've produced for youth tackle football and cheer. The first blog, entitled AYF and AYC Insurance, the Gold Standard, explains why our insurance program is superior to the competition in terms of specially negotiated coverages, risk management services, and ease of doing business with our instant online quote, pay print, and also exposes one of the tricks that a major competitor uses to make their insurance seem like it's a lot less expensive than it actually is. The second blog outlines a study of injuries within AYF that have been taken from all the accident insurance claims that have been filed over the past 10 years. I think you'll find this study to be a valuable resource, and in addition to these canned reports, we can run a custom injury report on just about any topic that needs to be further researched. Our most popular blog ever is the one that explains why age-only divisions in youth tackle football are no more risky than age-weight divisions. This is a controversial topic, and it seems to go against common sense. However, our studies within AYF indicate that the number one determining factor of injuries in youth tackle football is age and age only. There does not seem to be any evidence of lighter players being injured more often. The next blog is well researched and delves into the issue of whether your league should allow add-on helmet products and presents both sides of the argument from the original helmet manufacturer's point of view and the new product inventors. At the end of the day, if you do allow these add-on products against the authorization of the original helmet manufacturer, you're taking over the legal risk that used to belong to the original helmet manufacturer. We have a number of blogs on concussion issues that you should check out to become better educated on this topic. AYF and AYC organizations are structured in several different ways. Some are single teams, some are associations consisting of multiple teams, and some are conferences consisting of multiple associations with multiple teams. How is the best way to ensure a multi-team organization, whether an association or conference? The most economical way is to take out a single application for the accident and general liability, as well as the directors and officers liability under the name of the highest entity where all teams are reported and a premium is paid on behalf of all teams. So let's review from the point of view of a conference. The conference should take out a single application and should include all of the association names and should pay a premium on behalf of all association teams. Some conferences don't like to do it that way because they don't want to take responsibility for coordinating everything and collecting the premiums. However, failure to apply under a single application usually results in a total loss of control and in confusion, and in most cases, some associations and teams end up slipping between the cracks and being uninsured. It also increases the liability risk of the conference and its board of directors because they don't have the proper general liability and directors and officers liability if they don't take out coverage under their own name. The advantages of a conference taking out the policies in their own name are: number one, the conference and board get general liability and directors and officers liability insurance for free. Number two, the conference all-star teams are covered for free. And number three, if hosting a regional tournament, it is covered for free. We do have a new way for conferences to apply for their own general liability coverage separate from the associations, but it requires evidence that all associations have their own coverage and there is a charge for the conference as an entity and for the conference all-star teams. Also, there's one problem with the conference sharing its D&O policy with the other associations. Because the D&O policy has an insured versus insured exclusion, an internal lawsuit filed by an association against the conference or vice versa would not be covered. If there are any concerns about infighting, all parties may want to purchase a separate D&O policy. Most youth sports organizations, whether AYF or my other clients, pay premium based on the number of teams that are reported. It's a requirement of the insurance carrier that a multi-team association or conference taking out insurance must pay a premium on behalf of all teams. The reporting of teams is on the honor system. However, the honor system may not be working. We know this because oftentimes the number of teams reported for insurance don't match up with the number of teams reported to AYF or AYC or that are listed on the website of the association or conference. Failure to report and pay a premium on behalf of all teams is flat out insurance fraud and drives up the rates for everyone. Starting in 2014, we're going to take proactive steps to verify the number of teams that are reported through a website check, cross-verification with AYF membership lists, and our claims adjusters are going to verify proper reporting prior to paying a claim. We continue to be blitzed by the media almost weekly with statements from NFL players and their wives about memory loss, autopsies of brains of deceased players showing CTE, and about players who would not allow their children to play youth tackle football. We've entered into a new phase over the past year. In the past, most of the attention centered around concussions and the immediate brain damage that occurs after a concussion. Now, the emphasis is turned towards the long-term brain injury resulting from concussions and even from the accumulation of subconcussive impacts. The primary focus is on CTE, or cumulative traumatic encephalopathy. CTE can only be diagnosed after death by performing an autopsy. However, researchers are trying to find a way to diagnose this disease in living patients by finding biomarkers. Researchers are still a long way away from doing this. However, you wouldn't know that from all of the statements that are floating around in the media from NFL players such as Tony Dorsett, who incorrectly stated that he's been diagnosed with CTE. If the biomarker research ever does become an accepted and established diagnosis for CTE in living patients, that is a game changer for legal liability in the insurance industry. Everyone knows about the NFL and the NCAA concussion class action lawsuits. Now, a class action lawsuit has recently been filed on behalf of the parents of all high school football players against the National Federation of High Schools. Carriers are wondering if youth football leagues are next. As a result, insurance carriers who write general liability for high-risk concussion sports will start to eliminate or restrict coverage for these sports. Faced with loss of coverage or stringent insurance carrier requirements to keep coverage, youth tackle football and cheer organizations will be forced to implement serious concussion risk management steps. Also, every state has now enacted concussion legislation to protect athletes. The insurance industry is going to respond to the concussion and brain injury crisis the way they always respond to any crisis, whether it's asbestos, construction defect litigation, or pollution. They're going to either exclude coverage, restrict coverage, require stringent risk management controls, or a combination of all of these approaches. I've listed a range of responses that I've heard in my discussions with insurance carriers that specialize in sports risks. On one end of the spectrum, some are going to totally exclude all brain injury lawsuits, including concussions, Parkinson's, and dementia. In the middle, others are going to restrict coverage by not offering limits over $1 million, taking away unlimited defense costs, or by lowering aggregate limits. On the other end of the spectrum, some are going to just require leagues to prove that they have a written concussion risk management plan and that they've implemented it. One question: what if the carriers all decide to totally exclude coverage for brain injury lawsuits? Would that be the end of the world? Would it then be too risky for you to continue as volunteer administrators or coaches? You might be interested in knowing that where insurance carriers have taken similar actions in the face of other risks, such as asbestos, construction defect litigation, and pollution, loss of insurance coverage cut off the feeding source for the plaintiff's attorneys and brought much of the litigation to a halt. The plaintiff's attorneys really aren't that interested in going after the personal assets of individuals. It's much easier to go after an insurance carrier. Our new brain injury risk management program can be found under the risk management section of our website. Here's the actual Word doc template that should be adopted by formal board action and fully implemented. Part 1 is the educational awareness part for coaches, staff, participants, and parents. Coaches should take the AYF Tackle Sure training, which is an online course at a cost of $5 per coach. In addition, they should take a basic concussion training course offered by the National Alliance for Youth Sports. Also, coaches, staff, players, and parents should be required to review and sign off on an educational awareness sheet that's provided by the CDC. We strongly recommend baseline neurocognitive testing. Also, you need to have written requirements for identifying suspected cases of concussions, which include signs observed by parents and staff, as well as symptoms reported by players. It also includes specific diagnostic questions that should be asked. If a concussion is suspected, the steps to follow are outlined as regards removal, treatment, and return to play. And finally, you should comply with all state concussion laws. All states now have concussion-specific laws. We found a great resource at lawatlas.com, which is a state-specific interactive map. Here's a list of the elements that are most commonly addressed by the various state laws. Note that some of the laws only apply to high school sports, whereas others apply to all youth sports. Other elements include removal from play, parent notification, return to play requirements, coach training, handouts for parents, liability for employees, volunteers, or coaches. The main takeaway is that if you don't comply with the standards set by your own state's law, that's a slam dunk case of negligence against your organization and its administrators and coaches. In my opinion, the only way to make sure you comply is to adopt written policies and procedures and to enforce them. Here are some injury statistics from AYF that compares youth tackle football and cheer concussions as a percentage of total injuries against other sports. Although tackle football seems to be getting all the adverse media attention, you might be surprised to see that the rates for cheer, soccer, and baseball aren't that much lower. Also, note that the majority of all injuries occur during games, even though a lot more hours are spent in practice versus games. Also note that only 28% of all concussions occur during practice. As you may be aware, one of Pop Warner's main initiatives to combat the concussion problem was to reduce contact during practice. I'm not saying that that's not a good thing to do, but based on these statistics, it will not have a big impact on reducing concussions. Here's some more injury statistics from AYF. Nothing really surprising here. Running backs suffer a large percentage of total injuries. Here's a breakout of injuries occurring to offense versus defense versus kicking game. Nothing really surprising here either. Here's some injury data from AYC. It's true about flyers being the most injured position. Also, notice all the injuries that occur during practice, with much fewer injuries occurring during actual performances. Perhaps most of the injuries occur when new routines or stunts are tried during practice. Very few injuries have occurred during competitive cheer. Here are some more cheer stats. Notice that the majority of injuries are caused by contact with ground. Also, notice that a large percentage of the injuries occur when the coach does not hold an official designation. My guess is that if they don't answer the question on the form about training, the coach is not trained. The studies on cheer injuries that I've reviewed indicate that proper coach training has a huge impact on injury reduction. I appreciate your attention on these important matters today. Please contact my office if you have any questions about your insurance or risk management program. We very much appreciate your support, and please go home and implement these programs.